Welcome, guys, to another episode of the Progress Over Perfection podcast. And on today's one, with the season fast approaching, we're going to be covering how you can set yourself up in the best physical place, mental place, and a point that Ali just covered before we started was routine. So we're going to be covering loads of different sections in this podcast of how you can set yourself up for the best season possible, or even if you're a coach, how you can set your athletes up in the best position to have a successful season possible.
Oh, I've missed that introduction.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while. You've been busy. But, I think that was a good thing. It's people think, prep starts is but prep should be something that you just transition to effortlessly from your improvement phase. Don't get me wrong, when you're in improvement phase or bulk or whatever people are calling it nowadays, you are going to be a little bit more quote-unquote lax on things. You might have a few more off-plan meals, or you might then combine 2 meals because you're having another meal kind of thing. You are going to be a little bit more flexible in that approach. But from a training aspect, training shouldn't really change. Your execution, your intensity should stay the same right the way throughout until maybe peak week. Or for a reason you might be feeling a deload in there, whether that maybe where you back off on the intensity to some degree, but the execution should be standardised, and you do want to keep some kind of sort of routine, going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time, because then the body's not going to be too much of a shock when you actually start going into that. But as we said before, mate, I remember when I started prep when I was with you, when we were living together, it's you do get that motivation, you are a bit more wanting to get up and go for a walk, and when you're fat in the off season, you can't be asked as much, but at the same time, it's it's always good to try and keep them habits in play. Yeah,
fully agree. And a saying I always like to use with everyone is, you either have it hard now, easy later, or easy now, hard later.
Yeah.
And I think it's such a good way to put it, because it's if you suck it up and keep in the routine and get yourself in that rhythm before, it then makes the transition and the prep easier. Or you have it easy now, you be relaxed, you have no routine, then you have it harder later when you've got to then action all them tasks. So I think it's such a good thing to remind, is that just do what you need to do now to then make it easier for yourself later on, rather than the other way around.
And it's the same when it comes to body fat, isn't it? It has to come off.
Yeah.
So you put it fucking on because you've been a bit too greedy in the off season. It's that's going to have to come off, and it's going to make your prep even harder.
Yeah. Or when you see someone will do, right, I'm taking a full week off plan prior to prep, and they'll come back 4, 5, 6 kilos heavier, and it's okay, you might have refreshed yourself, but now that's only got to come off again, and you could argue that's then going to be harder to take that off and feel fresher once you have to take off that 6, 7 kilos again.
But it's just I'm all for just a day off where you're going to spend time with your partner, and because let's be totally transparent, when it comes to prep, then things do sort of take a hit. You won't be spending going off for meals or going to the cinema, having a pick and mix and all these kind of things. That won't be happening. Not if you want to be your best anyway.
Yes.
You can still have them in there, but you've got to understand there's a sacrifice to that. So I'm all for a day, but a week is just a bit of an overkill.
Yeah.
And that probably screams to me problems.
Yeah.
If you have to sacrifice what you class as a normal life that much, you probably shouldn't be prepping.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. And just to sub into another section from that, let's say, for instance, you've got a client with you that's starting prep. Let's say in March, April. What would the things you would be laying down now as a coach to that athlete to basically set that season up to be the best as possible? Obviously, we touched on routine there and things. So what would be 3 main things you'd look at?
Probably pull the training back, and start a new logbook. Kind of thing. So because I think the hard thing about prep is sometimes you can get caught up in numbers.
Yes.
So it's your hip hinge numbers, or your glute drive numbers, or your hack squat numbers, whatever it may be, or pull down numbers. It's so start afresh and standardise that, and then use that as a building block to go through prep.
Yeah.
Because we all get greedy. We all put an extra 5 kilos on the machine when we don't actually want to put an extra 5 kilos on the machine. And you and I have definitely done that in the past. Sure. I would probably say, make sure you get your fruit and veg in. Because I think a lot of people, especially at the back end of a prep, or off-season should say, start to neglect the fruit and veg, because when your food is high, getting that in is quite difficult, and you don't prioritise as much as probably what you should, because you just think, I need to get the carbs and fat in, when we know that the vegetables are obviously going to be carbohydrates, and some vegetables are going to have fat in it, but there's a lot of micronutrients that are in that are going to be very, very important, especially to aid digestion. And then probably get your sleep nailed. We know the importance of sleep and how much to sleep. If you can sleep through a prep, how much that makes it so much better.
Yeah.
And we also know, towards the back end of a prep, sleep is going to be compromised to some degree. But if you can limit that the best you can by getting a good nighttime routine in place, getting off, even something if you know you've got a bad habit, and you want to squash the habit, maybe you could be on your phone before bed. Put your phone in the other bedroom. It's my phone never comes into the bedroom now. My phone's always in the office when I go to bed, and it's one, I don't need to speak to anybody. Like, no one's that important. And if they are that important, they'll probably contact Shaw.
Yep.
If it's that very important. So they're probably the three things that come to my mind. How about yourself, bud?
I think the first one for me is more of like an attitude than an actual something to give to a client. And I think that's, I see it posted so much now, but it's how you do anything, it's how you do everything. So I think like before you start your prep, really start to like just check yourself as a person. So like if you're in the gym and you're leaving reps in reserve, how you do that set's going to be how you act towards your diet when it gets tough. Like everything it links in and is so, just all together. So I think really start like analysing how you do one thing, how you do everything, and start trying to just have like an all-in mentality towards everything you do. I think that's important. Next one would be similar to what you said, just have that like rhythm of a routine in place with wake times, sleep times, because if you're having to establish that 2-3 weeks in the prep, you could argue you're then setting yourself back in 2 weeks that you're going to have to work harder for in the latter parts of prep, so just get ahead of the game. And last one would be, when it comes to food, just set your diet up in a way which is productive towards that prep, as in you're the fullest you can be coming into prep, calories at the highest that they can because you've trained enough to warrant that food. Like, look at all of these things to make your prep easier before you start, to then just transition, like you say, to a smoother prep.
I think you said something there about mindset, and that's something you and I are very important, but like, make sure you fucking enjoy it as well.
Yeah.
Like, if you start complaining from 2 weeks, 3 weeks in, that's probably time for you to check in with yourself and the coach and say, this might not be for me, because it's only going to get harder.
Yeah.
Like to the back end of prep, it is difficult. Like, don't be naive and think it's easy. And it might not be as hard as what it could be if you put yourself in a good position when you start, but at the same time, it's still going to be difficult. Like, you're still going to be tired, you're still going to be hungry, you're going to be a little bit moody, you're not going to be the same person as what you think you are. So again, and make sure you probably let people around you know that. So make them fully aware of, towards the back end of it, I might get a little bit tired, I might get a little bit snappy if this is the case, I do apologise. Because if the person that you're with, or your parents, or whatever it may be, they might not understand. They might just think you're being a cunt when you're not. So again, I think just making the surrounding environment, people that you're with, aware of the process as well.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. And I think as well, like, I always say to people, be honest with yourself at the start. And I always say, like, something I'm doing with a lot with clients now is I'm getting them to almost analyse their own dieting experience and say to themselves, like, okay, I'm not going to realistically say to you, you're not going to have anything off planned during prep if you know that at some point you may slip up, or you've got tendencies of slipping up in the past. So it's like, okay, let's plan that into your prep. Let's have another couple of extra weeks so we can manage that rate of loss. And just be honest with yourself in terms of how you think you're going to be towards the prep. Like, come into it with that 100% mindset. But also at the same time, if you know previously it's taken you longer to diet than you planned, plan that extra time in and just be honest with yourself rather than setting an unrealistic expectation.
Yeah, I think that expectation management's proper key. Anything else we can talk about there?
How about from like you said there, a training standpoint in terms of resetting numbers? Will you have clients change their training volume before they start a prep, or will you have clients do a D-volume before they start their prep? What's your approach when it comes to that?
Potentially a D-volume, so they got a fresh start. Because at the end of the day, you want to come in fresh, don't you, as well? And I think if you come in fresh, you can then potentially schedule when another D-volume may be needed within their prep. Because say, for example, you know your client, because you've been working them through the off-season, that every 8 weeks they need one. So you can go, okay, cool, maybe within this prep we have two.
Would you change any exercises in the prep? So like, say for instance someone's doing a barbell press, would you change that to a Smith machine press, or would that be something you do later on in the prep?
Probably later on, when they start to get lighter. Because then they, like, when the person's lighter, the amount of internal stability that they can create will be less. So I'll probably stick to more fixed path machines, because then at the end of the day, we know even when you are assisted, like when it comes to the back end of a dieting phase, you're not putting any new tissue on. The most important thing is just being able to stimulate the tissue and not get injured, and be able to progress as well. And then you can also argue that when they transition to that new movement, there's a bit of a novel stimulus there, so they can feel like they're going to be getting stronger because of the new movement, so they have to progress. Where if they've been doing a free weight barbell squat or barbell press, for example, like they're going to hit a ceiling at some point, and then they start to get lighter, which is going to create more of a stability challenge, which means they're going to be able to be more enabled to produce as much force throughout the movement, so they're going to get weaker, even though they actually might not be weaker within that muscle. So just probably eliminate things like that.
No, I like that. And when it comes to like attitude towards food, I think you're a good example of somebody that's. I wouldn't say, because this is a subject I'd actually like to speak to you about. Is I wouldn't say you're emotionally detached from food, because you enjoy food like the rest of it, right? The rest of us, you know. And I think everyone always says like, I'm a foodie, I can't prep because I love food too much. When my counter to that's everyone loves food. Like we're wired to enjoy food, and it's just then an attitude towards food that you need to adopt when you come into your diets and your preps. And what would your top tips be for just adherence with diet and how you've trained your mind over time?
Going to besides, I'm just throwing lead on stage there.
No.
Before we actually delve into that, this term foodie, okay, I only think you're a foodie if you appreciate good quality food. And what I mean by good quality food, now if you go to a Michelin star restaurant, like they're obviously very good at the job and they have the best of the best quality. If you just enjoy a fucking greasy burger, I don't think that's a foodie.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Do you know what I mean? Because like at the end of the day, like a foodie for me is someone who really, really appreciates the skill and eloquentness that goes into a really high quality meal, and you pay shitloads of money for it. It's like, for example, if I went to a physiotherapist and I was getting some very, very special kind of work done, and I'm paying shit like loads of money for it, right? I expect them to be the best at their job.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily need to be the best at your job to fucking put a burger patty on a thing, and that's not me down regulating anything there, but I just don't think that's a foodie.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
I just think you like shit food, and a lot of it, and we all do. Like, we all do because it tastes nice. At the end of the day, like, as you said, like, I like food, but I appreciate the occasion more.
Yeah.
And that could just be me as an individual. Like, I understand that is me, but for me, it's like the environment itself and the people that you're around is much more important than the food that you're consuming.
Yeah, I'd agree with that a lot, because I think even before I like done, let's say, bodybuilding properly, there were still times where I've had friends that didn't train and didn't do anything related to bodybuilding, and then when we then done things, I would enjoy going out with them friends even more, because there was a novelty element to actually going out for food and going to a restaurant, which I wouldn't do on my own, or I wouldn't do with people that I bodybuilded with. So that element of it's so true, like you say, in terms of actually just enjoying it more than the food, and the whole atmosphere of getting ready for food, going out for food, makes that event so much more enjoyable.
100%.
Yeah.
And I said this to Asa before when I was having a chat with him. It's like, I think life's all about relationship and memories that you create with that relationships. So for me, it's like relationships, communication, and then memories. And like your relationship, I said this like an example, your relationship could be with a car. Like, you love having a car, and then the memory you create is driving that car around a fast track.
Yeah.
So like, that's what your values are. But but we all need to create relationships within things that we love.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, right now it's obviously Charlotte, it's obviously the dog. It's like the memories of me going for walks, or him fucking doing stupid shit like chasing a tail and all this. Like, these are the memories that we're creating. So again, if you can't, I don't think you can really create a memory of yourself going to, we'll just choose Five Guys and getting a burger, but you can create it like going with your mates, and then your mate fucking gets it down his front and you laugh about it.
Yeah.
It's like, that's the specialty of what the occasion is.
Or you ordering a peanut butter burger that was tiny.
Oh, that was pathetic, wasn't it? That was like the story. Yeah. That's like the story of my life. Makes most girls look at me and go, it's not very that impressive. And that's how I felt about that burger. It was very, very
disappointing.
Flattered to deceive.
But no, I think that's such a good point, because I think the whole time we spent together, how many times did we go out for food? Once or twice? That was once.
Yeah, probably.
When we went to that. I can't remember where it was we went.
Somewhere in Liverpool, innit?
Was there somewhere else?
I think we went to Nando's.
Yeah, and that was it. Nando's once. Yeah. So like the times that we've had around food have been more focused on actually going out, because I think I've only seen you in a shirt once, and that was when we went out for food. So again, it's just enjoying the difference. That's the exact right word, isn't it? The difference, and then the novelty of the going out for the food, which creates just that new experience. Yeah.
And me and Cal here aren't saying that you can't go out and enjoy food. It's not the point. It's like, you can enjoy certain types of food. I just think people have got to stop putting so I'll go back to the Michelin star. Like, you might only be able to get in that restaurant in 4 months in advance. So it's a very, very special thing. But when you start to understand that Mackey's is going nowhere, Five Guys is going nowhere, but that time when your friends come up from, I don't know, down south, like for example, when you come up to me, it's like, it's not as common.
Yeah.
So it's like, you make the most out of it because you want to appreciate the time of the person. That means you go to Five Guys or sushi or whatever it may be, so be it. But it's like, when you get to see people that you might not see on a regular basis, it's not something you should take for granted. Where I'm not saying we should take McDonald's or Five Guys for granted, but like this again, this like post show, isn't it? Like, I know we're going off track here, but like, knowing people eat all that food post show, it's like, it's not going anywhere. Or they create a list of things they want to eat. It's like, you don't need to create a list because it's always there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's never going to disappear. Why don't you just eat what you feel like eating, and then go, Joe, next week I'm going to go, I've seen this on Instagram, I'm going to go there. Yeah. Instead of trying to preempt, I'm going to get fat.
Yeah.
By eating all this food.
Yeah, or treat it with that kind of like scarce attitude that, like you say, it's never going to be there, or you're never going to get a chance at some point to have that.
Yeah, because like, for example, like, if Gordon Ramsay opened a restaurant and said, this restaurant's staying open for 6 months because it's a popular restaurant, it's like 100% then there's a scarcity element to it because it's only there for 6 months and you appreciate Gordon Ramsay's food, for example. But like, we know Mackey's not going anywhere. They make too many people fat and too many people like the food. I haven't had a Mackey's in ages, I feel like a Mackey's now.
How would you say in that regard then, like because obviously you've always had a good relationship with food from when you started training, would you say, or just in general?
Well, this is actually something like so I never, when I first started competing, or when I first started getting into this bodybuilding, I never really had a good relationship with food in regards to, I used to just eat the same things over and over again.
Okay.
So I'd just eat the same meals over and over again, and like, I would be a little bit more nervous to go out. So like, this is when I was like 20 to probably 23. Like, I would be very, very reluctant to go out for food, but then when you start to get a little bit more educated and you understand that it doesn't actually make that much of a difference, it's like, then you can be a little bit more flexible. I think that's a good learning curve that I went through. But what was the question, sorry?
No, just how do you feel like that relationship's evolved over time with like, because I can use myself as an example, like if when I first ever done my diet, I then overate for that first time, then every time I dieted after that, I realised I didn't need to do that. So like that relationship with food evolved over time, and obviously you're seasoned in competing now. You don't need that off-plan food or that kind of like consistent weekly meal to like bodybuild, you know. So how do you feel that's evolved over time?
Listen to your digestive system. Your digestive system tells you everything. So if I eat a meal and I feel shit, or I'm having the shit straight after, I won't eat that again for a while. So like when I must have been about 10 weeks post-show, and me and Shaw went to Vicenza, and I was ruined. Absolutely. And it's like, I just can't handle that food at the time being. It doesn't mean I can't have it forever, but my body showed me a sign that I can't handle that, and that could be anything. And again, it's like, you can argue Vicenza's a healthy-ish place to eat because it's just very good, highly cooked quality meat, but I had too much meat.
Yeah.
But because where probably my stomach was at, due to just be feeling prep, where it's still probably a little bit delicate, it's like I just couldn't handle it. So I think that's probably the best thing to explain to people. Like, if you eat something and you feel good afterwards, fine.
Yeah, no, I think that's such a good point to reference to, because all of us know there's been times when we'll have food, we'll feel like shit, but we'll still continue to have it. Yeah. And it's only when you start actually realising, right, let me look into this a bit further. My body's not digesting this well. I don't feel good after eating it, so why am I doing it? And when you just actually think about it more and start to break down, okay, I feel good eating my own planned foods, I feel good eating healthy food, the more I do that, the better I'm going to feel. And you almost deep it like that, and then it makes you want to repeat it more often, because you know you're not then going to feel as worse off the action.
If you think about it, it's kind of stupid, isn't it? Do you know when people eat things that they know doesn't sit well? It's quite stupid. I said before about it, but no, I said this as like, if you put your hand in your fire, like, you get, because it doesn't feel good, you take your hand out.
Yeah.
So why would you do the same thing with regards to food? Like, why would you eat something? Like, and again, this is where, like, so there is, I say it all the time, there is good and bad food, right? Okay, McDonald's is not good for you. Apple, for the majority of people, is good for them. Okay, but that doesn't mean you can't have a McDonald's.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you can't drink alcohol. But if you try and argue, say alcohol's good for you, it's not. So it's just having that understanding, and again, it's just taking responsibility. It's like, for example, if I go down and smash a kilogram of sourdough bread, so I have 2 fucking full loaves of sourdough bread, probably gonna feel a bit fucked. Do you know what I mean? And even though quote unquote sourdough bread is okay to eat, eating it at that abundance is gonna fuck you up.
Yeah.
So it's like, but whose fault is that? It's mine. It's like, you can't fucking blame anybody else.
Yeah.
So it's like, I probably don't want to do that next time.
No, good section on food there. I think it's true, like you say, just thinking into it a little bit more rather than just eating it thinking, oh, I didn't feel good. Think about why your body's not agreeing with it. What options could you potentially had in replacement of that would have just made you feel as good and made you respond to it better, and then allowing that attitude to carry into your relationship with food and preps and diets that you do moving forward.
100%. Me and Nathan spoke about this in the reel when we filmed with Chris one time. It's like, coaches are very afraid to give meal plans now. But what's the difference between a meal plan and a training plan? Like, you've got no issues telling your clients how many sets, reps, rest time, tempo to do. But why are we afraid to tell our clients what to eat when we know food's very, very important for their digestive system? Again, it's not necessarily being restrictive, it's just advising them, because most people don't know what to eat. That's why they've ended up in the position they're in now.
Yeah, no, I would fully agree, and I think the more I've delved into nutrition and learning about gut health for yourself and Nathan as well, it's made me change my perspective on food. Like, I don't want to eat, even if food tastes nice, I'm not going to risk the implications that can come from just not functioning in as well, because then I don't train as well, and training makes me happy. It's just making that link with it and understanding the larger role it has to play than just. But I think
taste. if more people created that link, what you've just said there, there'll be less issues.
Yeah,
because everyone just makes themselves feel shit.
For sure, and I always like to say to people as well, I think one of the most simple ways to break it down is like, let's say for instance, and I had a client that I can use as a case study for this, right? He said he was at work and loads of people brought in food. I was like, right, you can eat that food in front of you. It's going to taste good for all of 5 minutes whilst you're eating it. Then you're going to feel like shit for the rest of the day for eating it. Or you resist it, break past that 5-minute barrier of not eating the food, then get the results you want, feel good long term, and just feel better for the rest of the day. It's like such a simple way to break it down. And you just need to apply it and just do it, basically.
And I think just to finish off this, like, people are then afraid to say no to people. It's like you've got no issue saying no to paying someone you don't like. No, like what you call it. So I will finish this dead briefly. So you get a parking ticket. You've parked somewhere where you shouldn't have parked, right? But you've got no issue arguing with the fucking traffic warden. Why have you given me the ticket, right? Okay, but then you've got an issue with someone of your friends bringing you in food that you know you shouldn't be eating because it doesn't sit well with you. It's not going towards your goals, whatever it may be. But you won't argue with them saying no.
Yeah.
But when and you're in the right there to say no because it's not aligned with your values. But when you're in the actual wrong, you'll argue. And I think that's where people need to put in perspective.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then just lastly, to finish on one other point, what mindset would you give people towards their first season, second season? Like, what do you think is a good attitude to go into your prep with?
Second season, learn from your first. Like, what went well, what didn't go well, reflect on it. Where did you struggle, where did you thrive? Wherever you thrived, keep that as what it is. Wherever you struggle, try and figure out why, and then work on that.
I like that.
As long as you still enjoyed the performance, process, sorry. And then first season, potentially don't put so much pressure on yourself. Like, and I mean this in the most respectful way, you're not supposed to be good. It's like the first time you've done it, it's not going to be perfect. You're going to learn a lot about yourself. You're going to learn a lot of things that you've probably never experienced. Like, you've probably never experienced being really, really hungry before, and then realise you've got 10,000 steps to, and then be pissed off because it's raining outside. Like, them situations don't normally come across in day-to-day life. But just prepare yourself for it, and prepare to learn a lot of positive things about yourself as well.
I like that.
Like, I think people always pick the way negatives, like, oh, I wasn't half grumpy. But it's like, yeah, no, but you're fucking disciplined.
Yeah.
You were disciplined for 18 weeks. You didn't step a foot wrong yet. You might have been a bit of a cunt to your partner.
Yeah.
But, like, you didn't look at the positive side of things as well.
I like that. Really, really good point.
How about yourself?
I would just say, don't succumb to what you think can happen before it's happened. And I mean that in a way of saying, like, don't say you're going to feel tired by this week's out. Don't say you're going to feel hungry at this point. Just allow you to respond to what's happening in the moment, rather than saying, at a set time I'm going to feel like this, or because I'm doing this amount of training it's going to leave me feeling like this. Just allow yourself to go through the process and experience the emotions firsthand, rather than presetting a time frame for emotions or feelings.
Just to counter on that as well, but if you do notice, for example, you start getting tired at 4 o'clock, try and then schedule a nap in at 4 o'clock to make the process. So, like, don't try and, as Carl said, don't try and presume you're going to be tired, but if you see constant feedback of something, put something in the way that can potentially help you. So, like, use yourself as a personal dialogue, but don't tell yourself you fucking feel tired, because you will feel tired then.
Yeah, 100%. So, little insight there, guys, to some things that you can apply with your clients before they go for their first season or second season in prep. So, I hope that one's been valuable, and speak to you on the next episode.
See you later.